And the outskirts of the capital, Kyiv, are now under Russian attack. The country's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, has urged the army to stand firm in the face of the assault, saying it was all the country had. He said the international community has left his nation to fight alone and urged civilians to help defend their country. Russia's President, Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, called on the Ukrainian military to seize power from their own government. Well, let's begin with some of today's key developments as this full-scale attack goes into a second day. Russian troops are closing in on the capital. Overnight, Kyiv was hit by blasts and Russian military vehicles have entered the city. The exact figures are unknown, but there are reports of large numbers of Ukrainian casualties, both military and civilian, and of Russian military deaths too. Streams of people in cars and on foot have been crossing from Ukraine into Poland, Romania and Hungary. The UN Refugee Agency believes up to 5 million people may try to flee. There's also fierce fighting in many parts of the country outside of the capital, with Russian troops advancing from the north, from the east and from Crimea in the south. But all eyes are on the capital. There have been exchanges of fire in the north of the city, which was reached by an advance party of Russian troops. Gunfire has also been heard in the city centre, close to the presidential palace, and there's been fierce fighting at the Antonov airport, which is to the west of the capital. Well, I'm joined now by our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucet, who's live with us from Kyiv. Lise, bring us up to date with the situation there, please.
Yes, you join us on an evening in Kyiv where there have been repeated explosions in the past hour, at least 5. And as we came on air, we heard more of this, what sounds like rolling thunder, but they're explosions, of course, caused by the advancing Russian forces, which are about 10 miles northwest of where we're now broadcasting from here in the center of Kyiv. And it comes at a day when NATO leaders have been trying to send a strong message of support and solidarity to the people and to the leadership of Ukraine, saying they're going to send more weapons, even air defense systems. But the loudest message that Ukrainians are hearing are these continuing Russian attacks on a city where it has to be said in the last few days, the energy that seemed to be draining of its people. Look behind me. Even the golden domes of St. Michael's Cathedral no longer shine. That's the foreign ministry just beside it. It has gone dark. Ukrainians have either gone into their bomb shelters or to the metro to seek cover. Some of them are fleeing with their suitcases, dragging them down the streets, but they're also signing up to fight. Let's just take a look at all the latest developments with this report from our correspondent, Nick Beak.
The early sirens wailed in Ukraine's capital once more. But this was no rude awakening. No one had been able to sleep. The latest Russian bombardments had hit yet more homes. Injuring the very civilians the Kremlin promised had nothing to fear from what it calls a targeted attack on the Ukrainian military. As we make our way through Kyiv, we find volunteers now bearing arms to protect their country. We soon see signs of a battle drawing ever nearer, as well as those bracing themselves for a last stand. Of all the places to get a flat tire, Alina's family now caught between Ukrainian artillery and the Russian front line. Elena says the whole family is very afraid and can't now go back to their home. And this is why. What do you think of what Vladimir Putin is doing to the Ukrainian people?
Що ви думаєте, що Путін робить?
This is him, Elena's mother tells me.
You can hear the artillery. That is outgoing fire from Ukrainian forces. That family has just left. The fear here is that very soon Russian forces will be making their way down here to take the capital.
At the same time, Ukraine's president was trying to reassure a nation, pleading with the world to help them.
For the second day, our cities experience rocket and bomb strikes, masses of tanks, as well as airstrikes, which are similar to those which Europe has already seen during the Second World War, and about which it said, never again. But this is now how it is. It happens again.
President Putin urged the military he was attacking to turn on their own government.
I appeal to the servicemen of the armed forces of Ukraine. Do not let neo-Nazis and Ukrainian ultra-nationalists use your children, wives and the elderly as human shields. Take power into your own hands.
Ukraine is under attack on many fronts. In Mariupol, in the southeast, destruction. In Sumy, in the northeast, battles rage. And here in the capital, in circumstances still unclear, horror as a tank drives over a car. Incredibly, the driver survived. And this is a pivotal battleground, an airport northwest of Kyiv. Its fate could be vital to that of the whole country. If the Russians succeed there, this will be one of the first neighborhoods they come through, Podil. Today it looks like any other in Ukraine. This queue is for the pharmacy. Maxim tells us he hopes any advancing Russians would not harm him and his family.
I think they don't take our normal people. I think they have heart inside. They have something good inside.
Elena, a grandmother, says Russian occupation would be a disaster.
This is my city, the city of my parents, my grandparents. I'm not going to leave.
And as for what she makes of Vladimir Putin,
when a person is so inadequate, nobody knows what will come to his mind.
tonight there is overwhelming support for the men and women being asked to save their country. But there's also a deep fear the effort will not be enough. Nick Beak, BBC News, Kyiv.
Well, while we're on air, the explosions are continuing. There's been a warning of an air raid now in the capital, Kyiv. So for the safety of our crew, I'm going to hand you back now to Roz in London.